is the famous story of Shlomo Hamelech and the two women. So let's go straight away to the text in the book of Melachim. It says the following. I've made it as big as possible. It says the following. After Shlomo Hamelech has his dream, it says the following. Two women. There's a problem with the word zonot. Does it mean harlots? Does it mean women who are promiscuous? Exactly. We don't exactly know what it means by this. But and they stood in front of him. And one of the women said, Bi Adoni, please my master. Ani va'isha azot yoshvot b'bayit echad, was in one house. Ve'eledi ma b'bayit. And we both had children. We both pregnant, and we both gave birth. Vahi b'yom hashlishi, on the third day, le'leidati, v'telid gam ha'isha azot, v'anachnu yachdav, the two of us are together. Ein zar itanu b'bayit. There's nobody else in the house. Zulati shtayim anachnu b'bayit. Vayamot ben ha'isha azot, and the other woman's child died. Asher shachva alav, because she laid on him. She fell asleep on him. And that woman whose son died, vatakom b'toch halayla, she got up in the middle of the night. Vatikach et beni, and she took my son Matzilai from my hands. Vamatcha yeshena, and I was sleeping. Vatashkiveu b'cheika, and she put that baby in a bosom. Bet bena hamet, and the dead one she put on mine. So that's the story. Va'akom baboker. I woke up in the morning and to feed my child. And he's dead. And I looked at him in the morning. This wasn't the boy I gave birth to. So that's the argument. We've got a woman who claims that she gave birth to a living child. The other woman also did. And there was a swap over in the middle of the night. And the woman who's speaking in front of Shlomo says, that woman swapped my baby, which means we've got, let's say, two women here. Two women, it's easy to say Leah and Rachel, in inverted commas. Leah says, Rachel's child died. She took mine. And I've got the dead one on my lap. Now, that's the claim. No witnesses, nothing. Line number 15, Pasuk Chafbet. What does the other woman say? And the other woman says, Lo, ki b'ni achai, my son is living, u'b'nech hamet. And the other one, and your son died. V'zot omeret, and this one says, Lo, ki b'nech hamet, your son died, and mine is the living one. But tadaber na lifnei Hamelech, and they spoke in front of the king. Vayomer Hamelech, zot omeret, ze b'ni hachai, u'b'nech hamet. This one says, my son is living, and your son is dead. V'zot omeret, and this one says, Lo, ki b'nech hamet, your son is dead, and mine is the living one. That is the story. Now, before we go into Shlomo Hamelech's solution, before we go into the idea, okay, and I'm not giving any answers, what in actual fact is the psychology of each woman? Okay, we're not going into the solution yet, but we have to analyze, when we read a story like this, not only the solution of Shlomo Hamelech, but what goes on in the minds of the women. That's question number one. Now, besides that, if you look in Pasuk Chaf Gimel, Shlomo Hamelech goes over the claims. Vayomer Hamelech. Now think to yourselves, What's going on here? Shlomo Hamelech is sitting in his rooms. His advisors are around him. This is the story. And then Shlomo Hamelech goes over the two claims in Pasuk Chav Gimel. Zot omeret ze b'ni hachai. This one is saying, my son is the living one, and your son is the dead one. V'zot omeret, and this one says, no, lo, ki b'nei chamet, u'v'ni hachai. So he goes over it. Why does he go over it? So those are the two questions which we have to face. What is the depth, the psychological makeup of these claims, and why Shlomo goes over it? Now, let's carry on. Take note that after Pasuk Chav Gimel, there is a ptucha, a pay, which means there's a stop here. There's an open space because here, so to speak, in the Masorah, in the tradition, it means to say there's a space. And what does this space come and tell us? Shlomo Hamelech now is delving into the situation. He has to analyze what he says, and that's the space. The space is you do never give an answer straight away. You have to think about it. Shlomo Hamelech is telling us not to be impulsive. That is the space. The Balei HaMasorah, when they copied it out, the story according to Ezra put here a ptucha because Shlomo Hamelech, he wants to show us that his solution didn't come straight away. It comes after thinking. Now, Vayomer Hamelech, everybody knows the story. Vayomer Hamelech, chuli charev, give me a sword. Vayaviu acherev Hamelech. People, his advisors, brought him the sword. Vayomer Hamelech, and the king says, Gizru et hayeled achai lishnayim, cut up the living one into two. Atnu achetzi le'echat, v'et achetzi le'echat. Vatoma Isha, and the woman who said, Asher b'na achai el Hamelech, the living one says, Ki nichmu rachamei al b'na. Vatomer bi adoni, please, tnu la et hayelud achai, v'amet al t'militera. As long as he's living, that's the main thing. V'zot omeret, and this one is saying, Gamli gamlach lo yeh. There's no way. If you can't have it, if I can't have it, you also can't have it. Gzoru, cut him up. Vayan Hamelech, vayomer, tnu la et hayelud achai. Give her, the one who was willing to give up his son, take it. V'amet lo tumitu hi imo. Vayishmou kol Yisrael el et hamishpat asher shafat Hamelech. And all of Am Yisrael heard this judgment which Shlomo Hamelech judged. Vayir'u mipnei Hamelech, and they had awe. Vayir'u, there's a dagesh in the yud. The dagesh in the yud comes. It's not that they saw, but they stood in awe in front of the king. Kira'u. Here it means they stood in awe because they saw. Ki chochmat Elokim b'kirbo. There is the wisdom of God inside him. La'asot mishpat. That is the story. So therefore, what is the story here for? The story is here for is the manifestation of the dream. The dream is that Shlomo Hamelech asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu to give him wisdom to judge the people. This is the manifestation of it. Now, it is not, this story is not mentioned in Divrei Hayamim. It's not mentioned there because Divrei Hayamim doesn't speak about how Shlomo judged the people. Divrei Hayamim speaks about how Shlomo Hamelech is a continuation of David Hamelech in the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Here we are speaking as Shlomo Hamelech as a human being, as a king in multiple facets. Now, Shlomo Hamelech follows the way of David. Because in Shmuel Bet it's written, line number 30, Vayimloch David al kol Yisrael, David Hamelech reigns over all Am Yisrael, Vayihi David oseh mishpat, utzedakah lechol amo. David Hamelech does justice and righteousness to his people. Let's try to analyze. David Hamelech is the main king of Am Yisrael. Shlomo follows his ways. Ad kedei kach that we see the last of the Tehillim, which David Hamelech writes officially in Tehillim, is Pasuk Perek Ayin Bet, chapter 72. And in chapter 72, it opens up and says the following: Lishlomo, to Shlomo, Elokim, O God, Mishpatecha lamelech 10. Please give him the ability to judge. V'tzidkatcha, and your righteousness, leben melech. That means, what does David Hamelech pray for? David Hamelech prays that his son will have the ability to continue judging Am Yisrael. Let's look at the Radak. Zer Mizmor, this Mizmor, Chibro David al Shlomo beno Shem Licho. When David Hamelech anointed his son as king, Amar, he said, Mishpatecha lamelech 10. Klomar, Sheyadin b'mishpatecha. You should judge in your cases. Shelo yishge b'mishpato. You shouldn't make any mistakes. Tein lo, give him de'ah ubina, the ability and the understanding, lishpot b'mishpat tzedek. והפסוק השני, פירוש הראשון, וצדקתך, פירושו יושרך, integrity. He should have the ability to judge with integrity. So David Hamelech is praying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Shlomo Hamelech should have two basic qualities as a king. Number one is integrity. Number two is the ability to judge. And the Midrash says the following: Mishpatecha lamelech 10. Keshem, the same way as you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, done below Edim, line number 43. Keshem she'ata dan below Edim, ba'atra'ah, same way as you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, judges sometimes people without witnesses and without warnings. Kain Shlomo b'ni, also my son Shlomo, will have the ability to judge also without witnesses and warnings. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chayecha, kach ani oseh. This is what I will do. Shneimar, vayeshev Shlomo al kisei Hashem. And Shlomo sat on the throne of Hashem. Says the Midrash, L'chi efshar lebasar v'adam le'yeshev al kiso. How is it possible to sit on the throne of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Elamau kisei Hashem, shedan din, he has the ability to judge, kiyotzro, like HaKadosh Baruch Hu, below edim v'atra'ah, without witnesses and warnings, kumo dinam shel shtei nashim zonot, as the story which you have just read. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what does David Hamelech pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? David Hamelech prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that Shlomo will have the wisdom that in every single situation, and in every single case that will come from him, people will stand in awe in his ability to understand the case, sit there with integrity, and create a proper judgment, just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that is why Shlomo HaMelech has got the name Shleimut, fulfillment, complete. He was complete in every single way until he began to fail. That is the introduction. And this is what David Hamelech asks for. Now, why does David Hamelech do this? He knows that the period of conquering, the period of fulfilling all the borders of Am Yisrael to the maximum is now complete. David Hamelech has captured Yerushalayim, he's captured different areas. All of Eretz Yisrael is under his son's rule. He doesn't have to fight anymore. Shlomo HaMelech doesn't have to fight. Therefore, what will his fight be? What will the period of Shlomo be? It'll be a period of Shlemut, where there'll be the building of the Beis HaMikdash. It'll be a period of integrity. It'll be a period where all of Am Yisrael and all the world will see that Ki Lashem Hamlucha. Everything is there. Everything is ready for Shlomo. And that's what David HaMelech prays for. You have to fulfill now the dream of Moshe Rabbeinu. As we said before in one of our first shiurim, the letters of Shlomo are the same as Le Moshe. Shin Lamed Mem Hey, Lamed Mem Shin Hey. Shlomo goes back to the world of Le Moshe. Shlomo is the absolute fulfillment of the dream of Moshe Rabbeinu. Introduction, finished. Now let's start. If there are any questions until now, please ask. Or can we carry on? Okay, is everybody with me? Now, we're going to go into two amazing insights of the Rosh Hashiva of Mir, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, took this story in the most unbelievable way. This book where his Sichot Musar, which he gave in Mir, and they, as you see, they were in 1972, 73, 74. This book came out in 1978, and it was a bestseller. And it taught me personally, how to look at the stories of Tanakh in a most unbelievable way. Psychology. Now we're going to go into the depths of Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, and I've got to say this interpretation made a huge impact on me. Huge. And I've never forgotten it. It says the following, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. Yesh ma'amar, and this now we're not speaking about Shlomo, we're speaking about the women. What goes on behind the scenes? Now, Yeshno ma'amar Chazal. There is a statement of Chazal which says, Arba'a chashuvim kemet. There are 4 people who are living who are actually half dead. 4 people. The first one is an ani, a poor person, mitzora, a leper, line number 50, suma, a blind person, lo aleinu, umisha ein lo banim, somebody who hasn't got any children. Now Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says the following, V'ata, suma chashuv kemet, shebelo chosh hariya eino mesugal להרגיש את זולתו. וכמו ששרוי לבדו, והבודד כמת יחשב. A blind person cannot feel anybody. Okay? What do we mean by this? We mean by this that anybody who hasn't got the ability to see, he's the most lonely person in the world. Now, obviously, this was before the development of our understanding of developing people's hearing, speaking, feeling, before Helen Keller. But I don't know whether ever you have interacted properly with a blind person. I had the zchut, in inverted commas, the merit to learn with somebody blind in Bar Ilan. Okay, he was an American. I'm not going to tell you the story, but they needed somebody in the Kollel of Bar Ilan to learn with somebody who doesn't speak Hebrew. So they appointed me. He was blind. And in actual fact, to teach him, now, let me give you an example. He was a student in university. He only could read through Braille. Okay? Now they asked him to write papers. So he wrote on his computer. He had this most amazing Apple computer. And he knew it was a Braille computer, Braille keyboard. But one of his biggest problems is that he never ever seen an academic paper. He never knew what it was, footnotes, bibliography. As much as he can explain to a person, if he's never seen it, he could not understand it. And this was his loneliness. He lived in this world of his own, which he couldn't break forward until slowly, people began to appreciate what he writes, and they actually began to exempt him from certain things, because we used to explain to them, he's never seen an academic paper in his life before. He could hear it, but not see it. Okay? Just try to think to yourselves what it is to explain to somebody blind colors. You can't. And that's what Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says, a blind person doesn't have the ability to feel for others, because you have to see their facial expressions. You have to see people, and seeing people creates a connection. And that's why blind people are so lonely. Next one, line number 53. וזה עניין המצורע, גם כן, שמאחר שחייב לשבת בדד מחוץ למחנה, אין לו כל קשר עם זולתו. A person who doesn't have any contact with anybody, he's dead. Okay? Socially, people need a social life. Okay? And because we are social, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us in a social environment, people need social connections. A Metzorah ruined his social connections. He was sent out. That's why he's dead. He'ani, a poor person, חשוב כמת. לא משום שחסר לו עצמו, אלא משום שאין ביכולתו לתת לזולתו כלום. He can't give anything to anybody else. People need the feeling of giving. I need to give. And since I need to give, and I can't give to anybody, then you feel you're not giving anything to the world. And then the last one. גם מי שאין לו בנים, people who haven't got children. ולכאורה מה חסר לזה? והרי כל תענוגות לרשותו, he can do what he's like, he can drawl around. אלא שטבעו של אדם, the nature of a person, להיטיב בעיקר עם בניו, to give to his children. ואין אדם בעולם שיכול לקבל הטבות, כשם שיכולים בניו של אדם לקבל מאביהם. The connection between parents and children is the most unbelievable connection. That is the essence of life, giving over to children. Okay? ובאין אפשרות, and if you don't have, הרי זה חשוב כמת. In certain aspects, you have a problem. Okay? This is before the concept of adoption, etc., etc., etc. Okay? But the concept of Chazal is that a person in this world is here to give. Now, בוא וראה מעשה שתי אנשים. Let's go and look in this story of the two women. שעמדו למשפט שלמה. וזו שמת, and the woman whose child died, גנבה את בן השנייה, she stole the other one's child, ואמרה בניהו, said, it's my son. So she says, Reb Chaim Shulevitz says the following. V'lichor yipaleh. It's a question. Ma gneva zu. What is this theft? What's she doing? V'chi hayeled yeli bna alidei gneva. By stealing him, he'll all of a sudden become a son. V'harei yodat ba'atzma ki yeled zaru. Her whole life she'll know that really and truly it's not her son. So what's she doing it for, says Reb Chaim Shulevitz? What is she doing it for? V'al ken tzarich lomar, shekivan shu atzmo yes savu k'zo imo, because the child will think this is his mother, v'yikabel tovoteh v'chasadeh k'tinok hagamol alei imo, harei ze mesapek et rotzono ha'az leben. Since the child will feel that this is his mother, she's got him. She can give to him. V'afilo eino pri bitna. Ad k'dei kach zakuk ha'adam leitiv im zulato. Uma akum halev. How crooked is the heart of a person. Shal yedei godel cheshka leitiv im azulat. The fact that I want to be able to give to somebody else, she's willing to steal from him, from her. That means, what are we living here? We're living in a world of a woman who wants a child. Why does she want a child? She wants to give. And she wants the child to feel. What does she do? She goes and steals another child. Ukadaila ligrom la avel machrid, and she is willing to cause such terrible sin lezulata. Ubilvad la shetuchal leitiv kasher meitiva imaben. What is she doing? She's willing to steal from somebody and cause such agmas nefesh in order that she will be able to give to somebody. That is the psychological makeup of the woman who is stealing. Why is she stealing? She wants to give. She wants this child in order to be able to feel that she is giving to him and he will appreciate. She's willing to steal in order that she will be able to give and the child will feel that he's receiving. Stage one. Okay, guys. Questions on this theory? Any questions? Yes, Harold. Harold. 1 minute. Harold starts. Harold's first putting his food, then you, Phil. Right.
Well, he seems to be analyzing this a little bit dispassionately. In other words, he doesn't come down hard enough on this woman that's stealing the child, because he's saying it's out of a positive motive, if you will. It's out of a need, a positive need, and so his analysis seems a little equivocal.
Just in order to answer your question, Les Miserables, you've seen it. I go and steal a loaf of bread and cause agmas nefesh to the baker, and he'll lose his money in order to give to my children. Les Miserables.
Yeah, no.
Jean Valjean. Correct, right. Harold?
Yeah, that's a question in morality. When your children are starving,
morality.
Are you allowed to steal?
Exactly. Why is she stealing? Because she feels she wants to give to the world. And if she won't have a child, she won't be able to give to the world, to her children. Phil, what do you want to say?
I think she's I don't want to use a swear word. She is a selfish woman who maybe wants a child to be a slave. I mean, she's already prepared to steal the child. She may have all kinds of.
Let's danota lekaf zuchut. Let's danota. Let's judge her meritly. She wants to give.
Who said? She wants to take. We saw.
Okay, but that's Shlomo Hamelech's got to decide. That's Shlomo Hamelech has got to decide. I agree with you. Could be.
But Phil, there's no evidence. There's no evidence.
There's no evidence. There's nothing. We don't have any evidence.
But she was prepared to let the child die if she didn't.
Well, a minute, that's the next stage. Wait. That's the next part of the story. That's the next part of it. You don't know that yet.
I don't want to compare a child to a loaf of bread.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But at the stage, the first stage before the Ptucha, okay, when Shlomo Hamelech analyzes, and that's why I specifically said there is a break in the story, because Shlomo Hamelech has to analyze what's going on. Let's judge each woman lekaf zchut. She might be in the maximum way. She might want him as a slave. She might want him as goodness knows what. But she also might want him because she feels the importance of giving. Okay? Now, how does Shlomo Hamelech deal with this? Let's carry on. This is amazing because, as you said quite correctly, Harold, it's a question of morality here. Okay? Let's carry on.
Like I said,
Sorry, 1 minute. 1 minute. Share screen. Okay. My wife is next to me. Abigail's next to me. She says she doesn't like it. Okay. Now let's just carry on. She'll argue with me afterwards. Okay. Let's carry on. So Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, in a later talk, says the following: Ach zu sheratzta ligzol ben she'eina shela, harei kol yameha teda she'eina ben shela, etc., etc. Now, in line number 75, he says the following: Ach me'idach gisa, harei yodat hi b'tzarat nafsha. She knows the suffering of the other woman, of the true mother. Vadavar tema, and it's an unbelievable question. Im midat achzariyut kazot haya beliba, ve'im kol kach achzariti, if she's so cruel and she's causing the other woman such an unbelievable pain, ech yesh ba koach hatava, how is she willing the power to give? Ad kedei kach lechayev et atzma b'parnasat hayeled. She's willing to be able all her life to sustain this child and look after him and send him to the best schools, eventually to Harvard, and pay goodness knows how much money. And on the other hand, she's so cruel. Says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, v'hein hadvarim, or v'choshech mishamshim etzel ha'adam bi'irbuvya. Every single one of us has got some light and darkness all mixed up. Ushnei kochot yeshnam ke'echad bekerev ha'adam. And every one of us is like this. The ain kan kol stira. There's no contradiction. Every one of us, says Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, has a point of light and a point of darkness. Every single one of us. And we always try to answer to ourselves, how did we do this thing which is so dark? Okay, we're mixed up. That is the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer HaTov all mixed up together. ולכן יכולה היא להיות אכזרית כל כך לגזול ילד מאמו. She can go and steal in order to be able to give. Now, what's wrong, Phil? You don't like it?
it's very nice.
It's
But
brilliant.
Well, it's one man's opinion. I would say you'd have to, a real analysis, we find out about the woman, what her record was. Maybe she was a baby seller.
I agree with you. I'm not saying she isn't, but in Shlomo Hamelech, let's take the story, okay? Kav adam lekaf zchut. Dan odam lekaf zchut. That's what Shlomo Hamelech does. And if this is true, how am I going to Shlomo Hamelech? How am I going to reveal her cruelty?
Oh, okay. That's where we're going.
That's where we're going. How do we reveal the dark side of her? How are we going to do it? Okay, just think to yourself, this is in actual fact Victor Hugo's copy. Victor Hugo in Les Miserables takes away when Jean Valjean steals the silver from the vicar. And his whole life, he's dealing with this situation. What can I do to give? The concept of or b'choshech, light and darkness, mishamshim b'erbuvia, is the miserable, is that which is miserable in the human psyche. Every single thing we have to weigh up. What are we doing? Is it the good for the sake of the bad for the sake of the good, etc., etc. V'hinei, let's carry on now. 1 minute, Harold, 1 minute. We'll ask all let's just finish up. I knew this would be contentious.
No.
V'hinei, Amar Shlomo, gazu et hayeled lishnayim. Chop up the baby into two. Utnu et hachetzi le'echad v'chetzi lasheni. V'yesh la'ayen. Ech samach Shlomo al chochmato. How did Shlomo Hamelech rely on his wisdom? Le'mor gizu et hayeled. V'im ki baru she'em amiti lo taskim lekach. It's obvious that the true mother wouldn't agree to it. Ubevadai tvater al bena, and give up on her child on condition he lives. V'asher rachamei merubim alav ad kedei kach. Mikol makom, איך היה בטוח כל כך שהאישה הגוזלת תסכים לכך? Perhaps the woman who stole will also come and say, give it to him. אף שבאכזריותה הייתה גדולה כלפי האם, אבל לרציחת הילד לא הגיעה. Perhaps she won't agree to it. מה גם שכל מה שבא לגזול הילד שרצונה להיטיב עמו. The only reason she wanted to steal was to be good. אומנם, זו הייתה חוכמת שלמה, שידע שהאדם בשעת החטא הוא במצב של נפילה. When a person sins, there's no end to the sin. ובמצב של נפילה, מיועד היא ליפול עד התהום. When a person's already willing to steal a child, even though his objectives might be good, the minute you fall into the trap of causing tsarot to other ones, there's no end. There's no end to it, guys. שבמצב של גזילת הילד מאמו, תסכים לגזול אותו הגניבה. Why? תדרדר עוד יותר, she will go down and down and down. A person will always willing to justify his actions. Okay? Your justifications. And that's why Aveira goreret Aveira. A sin causes another sin. You don't know where you're going to fall to. And that was the greatness of Shlomo Hamelech. If one of these women is willing to steal and will judge her lekav zechut that she wants to be good to this child, you never know where it's going to end. And Shlomo Hamelech understands the psyche of a sinner, of a person who steals, of a person who's willing to cause such sorrow to another woman, will go to the end. That is the first analysis of this story. Right. Larry, you wanted to ask something. Larry?
No, it's not important. It looks like you're getting into the point.
That what?
You're getting into the point that I wanted to ask.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Harold.
Well, just to counter, I think that Chaim Shmulevitz, when he made this statement about everybody has a dark side and everybody has a light, I think it's very, very insightful, because I happen to know Lamaisa, I happen to know people, specifically one individual, whom one would regard as, a wonderful human and individual, but has a very dark past. And you would wonder, how is it possible that such a person could have done certain things that and at the time, which I think is also what he's saying, is that in the midst of it, during that, a person, even though maybe their motives they believe are good, nevertheless there's such darkness that they're in the midst of, that that ultimately, as he points out, they will continue to fall until some point in their lives when they clearly have some kind of epiphany or a change in life or circumstances, and they begin to move on a different pathway. So I, for one, I think that his analysis is right on the money.
Listen, you can argue with it, but I'm saying that's the way he analyzes the story of the two women, which is an amazing psychological analysis. Freud would jump to it. Yeah. Phil, what do you want to say?
I don't understand it. I don't understand. He's saying that if she's prepared to do something bad, so she'll continue sooner or later to do something bad, even though she may have a feeling of desire. She's not wanting the baby. The initial premise is that she wants the baby for good purposes. And
exactly.
That's the initial premise. And it's a very charitable premise. From that, you say, but if you do something bad to start with, you'll end up with something bad ultimately. That's the theory.
Yeah. That's the theory.
It's a nice theory. I think it could be the story with the bread. It's a different story, just because he stole us. I'm not saying
it's an exact one, okay? But we all know once you begin to lie and not tell the truth, you'll carry on.
It's a simple story. If you are really a mother, you want a child to live. If you're a dealer in children, if you don't, you're not going to get the kid. To hell with them.
Exactly. Anyway, but the analysis of the way people think is really amazing. That's what it took me. Listen, everybody can argue with it. It might not be true, but the way he brings out the psychological analysis of people is quite brilliant.
But is he saying all people have a bad streak?
Listen, let's put it this way. Okay, I think that bad is relative. Everybody and every single one of us, our free choice lies in certain parameters. Okay, let's give ourselves an example. Okay, you've got a choice. You're speaking to somebody. Okay, the bad side will be, perhaps I'll tell you a story about this guy, which is Lashon Hara. Or I won't speak Lashon Hara. The or the choshech, okay, the light and darkness is relative. It's always relative to the person, because that is free choice in life. Free choice enables you that sometimes it's light gray and light yellow. Sometimes it's white and black.
That's true.
Right. So therefore, the or and choshech, the light and darkness, is not only light and darkness. It's also yellow and light gray.
Yeah, but the point is, there's a lot of difference between light gray and darker gray and
black.
Eating a loaf of bread.
I agree. Okay, but that's what he means. That in every single one of us, we have a certain. There's always or and choshech. Okay, and the or and choshech is that sometimes I do things. Let me give you an example, okay? A good example, okay? I don't want my parents to be upset with me. I don't want them to be upset. I've got respect for them. So what I do, I copy in an exam, in that my report will be good and my parents will be happy. I don't cause them any sadness.
Oh, but you're taking an example of cheating.
And cheating, it's also that sort of thing. Why do you cheat in an exam? Because I want to show, I want to show respect to my teacher that I've learned. I want to show that my parents will be happy with me. That's also all the choshech.
I think that's naive. It's basically, if he cheats the exam, he wants the marks because he wants to go to Harvard.
Correct, okay, but there might be another reason.
But to say to him, oh, this poor guy's cheating because his father will feel very bad. The guy may be cheating because his father's going to beat the hell out of him.
It could be. That was in our day. That was in your days, not in our days.
Nowadays?
I'm just saying that the all the choshech is always how do I live my life? What are my decisions made up of?
The simple answer is there are temptations.
No, and the temptations, this was a temptation of a woman.
That's more than
knew a child was
temptations. You shouldn't eat too much candy. But on the other hand, you really like the candy, so you take a bar. That you're not in the same class as a baby snatcher.
Okay, but everybody has that.
Yeah.
In every single one of us, and that's what Rabbi Shlomo is saying. In every decision which we take, there'll always be a certain amount of or and choshech.
Yeah.
And you've got to decide if you're going to do the or you're going to do the choshech. And in everything is a price.
But also, if we know it's or choshech, that's why we have the idea of tshuva and things
100%,
like that.
100%.
So therefore, we recognize we're not all tzaddikim, or not always tzaddikim.
I agree. Okay. Anyway, that's the story, the way Rabbi Shlomo perceives it. Okay, which is very, very interesting and very, very open-minded. Very. It makes people think in a very, very deep way. That's what I wanted to learn with you. Let's carry on for a different insight. Okay, let's carry on. Okay. Now, let's look now. Now we're going to go in, after we've learned the framework, let's go into the words themselves. Okay? We're starting off with Pasuk Chaf Aleph, Chaf Bet, where the claims begin. Okay? What does she say? Vatomer Haisha Acheret, and the woman whose child is the stealer, inverted commas, Lo, Ki B'ni Hachai, mine is the living one, Ubenech Hamet, and your son is the dead one. Vi Omeret, Lo, Ki B'nech Hamet, Uveni Hachai. Look at the claims of each woman. The first woman says, mine is the living one, and yours is the dead one. And the other one says, no, yours son is dead, and mine is living. Why doesn't the other woman also say, B'ni hachai, u'b'nech hamet? Does everybody understand the question? Again, Pasuk Chaf Bet, Lo, ki b'ni hachai, u'b'nech hamet. Mine is the living one, and yours is the dead one. And the other one says, no, yours is the dead one, and mine's the living one. Why does she change the order? Why didn't she also say, no, my son's the living one, and yours is the dead one? And says the Malbim, how does a person speak? Speech. Says the Malbim in a brilliant way. Says the following. Line number 95. ותאמר האישה האחרת, לא, כי בני החי ובנך המת. וזאת אומרת, לא, כי בנך המת ובני החי. סיפר הכתוב כי בדברה, Amra hanitbat, the one who's being claimed from says, B'ni hachai, mine is the living one, and yours is the dead one. And the one who's claiming says, no, B'nei chamet u'b'ni hachai. Uklal belashon, sha'adam yakdim tamid ma shehu ha'ikar. A person always precedes the main thing and always leaves the secondary thing later on. ולפי זה, הסברה נותנת שהאישה שדקדקה להקדים בלשונה, line number 99, בני החי קודם, עיקר מגמתה, her objective was, שיהיה החי, the living one should be her son. And the other one, והמקדמת בלשונה, בני חמת, your son is dead. What is her objective? עיקר מגמתה, שיהיה הבית בן חברתה. That the son of the other woman should be dead. That's her objective. לא שיהיה החי בנה. Not that my son will be living. ומזה כבר היה יכול להבין ולהכריע מאמו. What is the objective when you speak? How does a person speak? How does a person promote? Do you first of all promote positive, or do you promote negative? Shlomo Hamelech already saw that. Omnam says the following. Omnam yesh svara, you can say the other way around. And here Shlomo Hamelech needs to summarize to himself. Yesh svara. שכל אחד מקדם את משהו העיקר אצלה בטענה וראיה. I want to prove what I can prove. כי התובעת, the claimant, עיקר ראייתה הוא ממה שהמת אינה בנה. That the one who's dead is not her son. שמזה תכריח, from here we can prove שהחי הוא בנה. והנתבעת, and the other one will say, עיקר ראייתה הוא ממה שהחי הוא בנה. אומנם בכל זאת, הבין שלמה, line number 105, הבין שלמה בחוכמתו, שאומרת ומקדמת בני חמת, ומצד שזה עיקר מגמתה. That is her objective. כי הגם שבפעם הראשונה שבירר ראיותיה, הייתה צריכה להקדים שבן חברתה הוא המת, שזה עיקר ראיה, בכל זאת, אחר שחזרה זאת בית פעמים, ותדברנה לפני המלך, and they spoke, the Malbim says that what? How a person speaks, what is his emphasis? Is his emphasis on the positive or is the emphasis on the negative? Okay? The worst thing a person can do when he speaks is, first of all, say that others are useless. Okay? Politicians, when they speak, that party is useless. And because they're useless, I'm good. No. Speak about the positive of about yourself. And Shlomo Hamelech realized how a person speaks is how he thinks and how eventually he acts. Speech, thought, and action are all connected together. And the way you speak is a way you think and also creates actions. That is another dimension. Not necessarily the analysis, psychoanalysis, like Reb Chaim Shmulevitz does, but how a person promotes himself, how a person speaks. Right. Okay. That is another dimension. Okay. All very, very important. And this story is perhaps one of the most important stories in the Tanakh, which gives us a way how to look at people, how they act, what are their actions, how do they speak, and the reactions, how they think. Now, as a judge, what do we learn from this? Let's carry on. The Shulchan Aruch carries on and says, Tzarich hadayan lishmoa divrei habalei dinim. The dayan has to listen to the way the people speak, uleshanot otam, and to repeat them to himself. This is brought in Shulchan Aruch. A judge has to go into the psyche and look at the language of how they speak. And where do we learn it from? We learn it from Shlomo. Vayomer Hamelech, Zot omeret b'ni achai, umatzdik hadin b'libo. And he has to go into the depths of the way they speak and the way they think. V'achar kach, and only he's gone after their claims, etc., etc., he has the ability to decide. Now, let's go back to the Psukim and see how this manifests itself. Okay? Again, line number 15, Pasuk Chav Bet. Vayomer ha'isha acheret, lo, ki b'ni achai u'b'nei chamet. V'zot omeret lo, ki b'nei chamet u'b'nei achai, v'tzedaber lefnei hamelech. They spoke. Now comes Shlomo Hamelech. What does he do? Vayomer Hamelech, zot omeret ze. This one, who's got the living one in her hands, says ze. This one is b'ni achai. And she says, what does she say? And he says in his words, he wants to try to analyze. Ze, this one in her hands, who's claiming that he belongs to me, said, Ze b'nei achai, u'b'nei chamet. V'zot omeret lo, ki b'nei chamet, u'b'nei achai. Right. Now, here comes Shlomo HaMelech's space. Time for deliberating. And that is the pay, the deliberation. He hears the claims, he analyzes it to himself, and now he's got to give a decision. Okay, and he asks for the sword. Now, Shlomo HaMelech is taking a chance because there's neither proof here or there. There's only one proof which exists. If I have this pen in my hand, if anybody wants to take it away, what is the rule in halacha? Hamotzi mechavero alav haraya. The woman who's holding the child is like this pen in my hands. Correct? So therefore, the fact that I've got it in my hands already creates a sense of ownership. Now, she's got to prove that she stole him. Shlomo HaMelech doesn't go according to proofs. He changes the halacha. He comes and says that there are different things here. And says the Rosh, V'chein b'chama mekomot. In certain situations, halchu chachamei hagmara batar umdena demuchach. An evaluation. No proofs, nothing. How do I judge? If I were to rely on the normal dinei mamonot, what would I say? The woman who's holding the baby should keep it. It's like the pen in my hand. The other one's got to prove. Shlomo HaMelech doesn't use these principles. He uses a different principle, and it's psychiatric evaluation. The davar zeh, says the Rosh, yesh lo ikar, midivrei Kabbalah, me'av lechachamim, from the father of the wise people, asher tziva litein la hayeled achai, who took it out of the woman who was holding him, okay, and gives it to the other woman. And what happens here? Amar says Chazal, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Begimel Makomot, Hofia Ruach HaKodesh Bevet Dino. 3 places there was Ruach HaKodesh. One was in the story of Shem ben Noach, which we're not going to go into. The other one is Shmuel, Ubevet Din Shel Shlomo. Bevet Dino Shel Shlomo, Tichtiv Vayan Hamelech Vayomet Tnu la et hayelet hachai. Take it out to the woman who's holding it and give it to the other one. Va'amet lo tumitu, and don't kill him. He imo, says the Gemara, Mina Yada, Dilma Irume Ma'arma. Perhaps she was playing around. Perhaps she understood who she's dealing with. Yatsa bat kol va'amra hi imo. This is the mother. So Shlomo Hamelech not only relies on his own seichel, but there's also a certain amount of Ruach HaKodesh. And now, the next part is, how do we deal with this situation? What is the depth of this story in a judicial way? Okay? Now this, yes, Harold. And we're Emet Hashem, the next year, we're going to carry on with this subject. Because this Akedat Yitzchak is amazing. It teaches us how law courts work. Yes, Harold.
Okay, I'm a little
questions.
Yeah,
Sorry?
I'm a little confused.
Yes.
The woman who said, "This is my son. My son is living, and yours is dead." In other words, the first one to speak, is apparently not the one that he concluded was the real mother.
And then if we go back to the story, okay, what happens here? It says, she says the following, "Vatakom b'toch halayla v'tikach et b'ni." She took him, okay? "Vatomer ha'isha ha'acheret lo." The woman who's is being claimed, okay? The other one, that means not the woman who's holding him. Not the woman who's holding him.
Okay. Oh, the
other one is saying, pardon?
The false mother.
Well, it's not. It's the true mother, really, because she says, B'ni achai. It's not the one who's holding him. I'm holding him, and I'm saying, no, yours is dead. This is the one who's
holding the baby. The real mother or the
other one, the thief.
The thief. And who says B'ni achai v'b'nei mamed?
She's the mother who's not holding the baby. She's
not holding the baby is the one who says that.
He's not the one who's saying B'ni achai. It's the other one. Look at the story. Vatomer ha'isha ha'acheret. The other woman who's not holding the baby, she's the one who's saying, no, mine is, what's it called? The living one. And yours is the dead one. She's saying to the one who's holding him.
That's the woman who's not holding the baby.
Exactly. Yes, that's the acheret.
And that's the real mother.
Exactly.
And the one who is the false mother
is holding
the baby. Correct. Now,
excuse me.
And now the other woman really needs to bring a proof, because it's like what? It's like holding the pen. Exactly.
It's simply the person orchos biyad. In ordinary halacha, 2 people come in. The psak would be for orchos biyad.
Exactly. Orchos biyad.
And the story is tremendous because it was not orchos biyad.
Exactly. And that's why the Rosh has to say that sometimes we don't rely on Hamotzim Mechavero, but we have to rely on Umdanot, on evaluations. And now we're going to see how this evaluation works.
But that's the greatness of the story.
That's the greatness of the story.
It goes against
the normal rules of Shulchan Aruch. Correct.
That whoever's got the property, that's it.
100%.
We don't know what to do.
And now that's Emet Hashem we're going to deal with next year.
Which means that the glory of It was divine inspiration because that would have been the ordinary rule. But
Exactly. And why Shlomo does it and how he hears and how he understands and the Ruach HaKodesh which goes behind it doesn't mean he's got prophecy, but
It's
they have
more than
spiritual
that. It's more than
guidance.
that. He had the guts because if he made a mistake, he's killing a baby.
Exactly, 100%.
Great
So
stuff.
however you understand, that's why we had to learn Reb Chaim Shulevitz, because Shlomo understands the nature of a woman who's sinning, and he goes down and down and down, etc., etc., and he goes after language, etc., etc., etc. There are multiple facets in this story.
Yeah, the language, the very fact that the form she uses, your baby is dead. More important, it should be my baby's alive. She should have said.
Exactly. That's the Malvi.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, the multifaceted, and we're going to discuss it. So we did the psychological aspect, we did language aspect, and the next year we're going to speak about judicial aspects.
When is the next year?
3 weeks' time, I think.
I
I don't know. I've got to check it up.
Okay, thank you.
I think
Please
it's
absorb
very well.
what we've learned. Have a
That-
good week and have a happy Hanukkah. Hanukkah Sameach to everybody.
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah.
Kol Tov.
Kol Tov.